went to Home Depot trying to get my herb garden back when I got up here, and all they had was basil. So
my basil's not doing well. Like none of my herbs are doing. Only thing that's doing well is lemon balm, but the mint this year's not doing that hot. The cilantro burnt out, and my basil.
Remember,
my basil is flowering, so I cut it off.
Yes. Make sure you cut it off.
I cut it off because of you.
Oh, mine! Look here, mine's doing beautiful.
Oh yeah, yours is doing great, and mine's in a pot like that, and it's on the struggle bus.
Well, remember that with herbs and stuff, they're partial sun. So you got to put them in a place where, they only get sun half the day.
I moved them, so we're gonna see. And I put my sunshade up too, because I realized last year I had my sunshade up all the time, but I took it down because when it rains, it gets heavy and starts to sink, and I didn't want my support poles to break. So this year I just didn't put it up at all. But I think that's why my herbs did great last year, is because they were under that shade.
Yep, that's exactly what I did. Great. Most herbs are partial sun.
At one point in Atlanta, it was like raining every day. So I was like, let me bring it inside. But, I really don't know how to do that. So we'll see.
I hate to be that guy, but I'm on 35%. So get rocked in here.
Nigga, y'all the one talking about plants. You talking about get rocking.
I was waiting.
I'm waiting. You got birds chirping in the background with your cigarette break. We waiting on you.
Oh, I've been here.
Don't 35% us. Okay.
I've been here.
We've been waiting on you 70 times 7. No, I'm just kidding. All right. Y'all ready? Boom, shakalaka.
Top of the world. Top of the world. Yeah, top of the world. Top of the world. Yeah, top of the world. Top of the world. Yeah, top of the world. Top of the world. Yeah, top of the world.
Top of the world. Shout out to whoever that artist is. I like that little theme song. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of the Worst Ones podcast. We are preacher's kids. My name is Rudy Wilson. I'm a PK. Kellie Lee is in the building. She's a PK. Terry Weeds is in the building. He's a PK. And Janessa Rowland is in the building. She is a PK. Kellie, how was your trip to Jamaica? I couldn't even say it seriously.
Why do we even bother why do we do quick change if we just acknowledge right away?
Kellie, how was your trip to Jamaica?
I don't know what to say. It was amazing. Had a great time.
Did you smoke a lot of weed?
I don't smoke. Is Jamaica big for smoking?
Oh my gosh!
Yes, girl.
That's the mother.
Okay, she knows that. She's just playing dumb.
No, she didn't.
You know she didn't.
No, for real. I give y'all a real update into it.
Hey, it's not a sin because it's not against the laws of man. So not in Jamaica, then at least.
But now I just go for Jamaica for the fun because I don't smoke. Get some oxtails.
Yeah.
I'm gonna get some oxtails, some good church chicken. We'll be going to Scotty's.
All jokes aside, I need you to try the KFC while you're there because apparently
I heard it's good.
Like I know somebody from Jamaica, and my dad was just in Jamaica not too long ago, and I was telling her that he was in Jamaica. She was like, "Tell your daddy to get the KFC," and I'm like, "My dad ain't gonna want no KFC." She was like, "No, I'm telling you, it's different in Jamaica than it is here." So. Okay. Please just give us the update. I don't know what the difference is, but apparently KFC is fine.
I totally
right. I don't even eat KFC. I've heard that too. It's real good. All right, let me take that.
I totally buy that because the McDonald's in Europe is far superior to what we have here.
Yeah,
my friend just came back from London. She FaceTimed me when she ordered her McDonald's. She was like, the lettuce is crisp and everything. I said, oh.
Do you know why that is? It's for two reasons. One, they have stricter food laws on what they can sell. So so for instance, the McDonald's French fries here have 17 ingredients. There they have 4. So, and then also it's not considered lowbrow to work at a McDonald's. It's just considered a normal job, and they make reasonable money. So like when I went there, like the manager came around to each table, like, is everything going all right? And you know, and wearing a tie, and like it's not considered.
In America, they don't even speak to you when you walk in. You just gotta start ordering.
They don't look down on it. They don't look down on it there.
Yeah,
so.
My friend, she showed me a Fanta, like the soda.
I was just about to say that. I was
like orange juice, because they don't have the same like coloring and chemicals. She said it tastes relatively the same, but it doesn't look like, you know, our sodas at all. And the Krispy Kreme, she went there too. And I was like, what does it taste like? She was like, a tad bit healthier.
Well, that, and they've got different, like if you ever see Orangina, they sometimes you can find it in the grocery store here. Orangina, it's amazing. It's basically like a soda, but with real orange juice in it. You just mentioned the Fanta, so made me think about it. It's a lot better for you, and it tastes chef's kiss on that one. Love Orangina.
Yeah, when I was just about to say something about the Fanta, because to your point, my one of my homeboys work at a smoke shop in Miami, but they sell that type of stuff. So like the Fanta and stuff was, I don't know which country, but it was definitely like Asian writing on it. They Skittles had Asian writing, and I was like, why y'all buying regular stuff? But and he was like, the ingredients and stuff are healthier, better, and yada yada yada. So they still sell candy and soda, all that, but they actually buy it from how they, I guess, are consuming over there.
Well, a lot of countries ban corn syrup in food. So they have to still use like real sugar. In fact, I used to do a joke in my act where I said, like, if America's so great and Mexico's so crappy, then why is their Coca-Cola better than ours? You know?
Right.
Because we got to import our own Coke back here, and then that, you know, it's twice the price. But have you ever tried Mexican Coke?
Skittles and everything. No, I have not.
Mexican Coke is great. It comes in a glass bottle. It's got that big white label on it for the customs thing.
So I didn't have it directly from Mexico, but I did go to a restaurant that sold Mexican like Coke products, and it's like, you know, I was like, well, what's the difference? But it definitely does taste different. It's just it tastes more rich, and
it's because it's real sugar as opposed to corn syrup.
It was good.
And if you want to go even further than that, when I was in New York, we went to this little, it was like a little coffee, like cafe kind of diner thing. And they still make their Coke the original way, which is where they put the syrup in the glass and then they add the carbonated water to it right there and stir it up right in front of you. That was pretty cool.
Yeah. Shout out to the people still doing it the right way.
To the Mexicans.
Well, yeah, definitely give us that update on the KFC, Kelly. I'm very curious to see what is so special about it.
Okay.
Jeriana, what's popping?
I'm good. Same old. The garden's doing well. Have about like
made on a roll.
That's another thing. I'm glad you remember. Had that 4.0. I made 100s on all my assignments. It's a humble brag, but if y'all really knew all the stuff that I juggle and try to do school, I would say like the first year and a half, I was just like, oh, it's not that bad. But this last year, trying to juggle work, school, podcasts, everything else I do, it's definitely stretched me. And so for me to still have my 4.0 and to still make 100s on all my assignments this year was a really big deal.
Hey, man.
Amen.
Dean's List.
Thank you. Yes, Dean's List. My dad actually asked me, he was like, do they do any honor societies or like summa cum laude? I was like, they don't, unfortunately. But we can just get me a little stole. Is that a stash or whatever?
Right. Just make you up one.
We could just, do a little at the house graduation.
I've never really been an honor student, so I don't know what that's called, but I know what you're talking about. I graduated with the regular cap and gown.
Listen, when I graduate next December, I might come on the podcast fully dressed.
No, do so.
In
Absolutely.
my clothes that I get from Amazon.
Absolutely. No, that's what's. I mean, even it's one thing to make a 4.0. It's nothing to get 100s on everything. I mean, 100. That's phenomenal. That's phenomenal. Congratulations.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, if there ain't a dean's list, they need to make one and put you on it.
Look, I agree. Here, I was going to show you guys real quick if you can see.
I see the word grades.
Me too.
Okay. That's 1,000 out of 1,000.
1,000 over 1,000.
Yeah.
Wow.
Perfect score. Yeah, I can see it. No, we can see it.
That's awesome.
Oh, look, she done froze with her grades up there. Hey, man.
She should.
God done gave her an extra shout out.
I know.
Right.
I'm starting to believe in providence now.
I mean, that is a shot right there. She was. Is she back? Janessa, you back?
Y'all disappeared. I was texting you.
Yeah. You know, you had froze with
did y'all
froze. Yeah, you froze with your grades up. You still skipping. I think it's your Wi-Fi. So another storm coming.
Oh yeah, she said y'all disappeared. It is some more rain coming today, isn't there? I don't know if it's a storm.
I don't think it's going to be widespread. But could you see what I was showing you?
Yeah, it froze while you were showing it. Yeah, we seen it for a long time.
Yeah, see, y'all disappeared. I was like, wait a second.
Nah, you good. Yeah. No, that's what's up, man. I'm very, very happy for you. Very, very happy.
It is about to rain. I need to go take the sunshade down. Y'all go ahead.
Okay. Terry Weezy, what's happening?
Nothing. Had a great 4th of July.
There you go.
Good. Yeah. A lot of fireworks.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Everybody enjoyed your cold dishes. Gotcha. Gotcha. That's what's up. Gotcha. As for myself, I'm sure at this point I've had another long church work day on Saturday. Which is pretty cool. Like it's pretty cool to see stuff once it's done. You know what I'm saying? Like it's pretty laboring to do it, obviously, but after you do it, or even just painting a wall, you know, in a bathroom, kind of just, you know, it just makes the bathroom look better. You know, you don't realize how long something has been a certain way until you start moving stuff around, touching stuff up, you know, giving it a little redecoration. And it's also teaching me I ain't gonna say patience, but I guess understanding how to you know, trust the process. Like for me, I'm kind of you know, I rather make one trip, if you will. Like if I'm gonna carry bags inside or whatever, or do something, like I want to do it all then. I don't want to have to do a little bit until it's all done. But this process is teaching me, because we don't have any choice but to do a little bit at a time. I guess it's just teaching me that process of just trusting the process, I guess, really, as opposed to just trying to, you know, do it all at once and then you end up dropping something or dropping the ball at something, or, you know, just missing something or whatever the case may be. So I am grateful for this process, you know, and it's cool to, like I said, you know, put your hands to work in the house of the Lord.
Amen.
Or what have you. But yeah, so I'm good. Shout out to our producer, Risa. We appreciate you.
Absolutely.
And all that you do for us, keeping us on track, getting us back in action.
Better than ever.
Better than ever. Yeah, we got our backgrounds together, smoke out the air. So you know,
eating.
You know what I'm saying? So yeah, we appreciate you. All right. So let's get into the topic. I know Janessa just texted the group. Did she? Oh, that was from y'all disappeared. Oh, okay. All right. So this is a question that stems from a conversation I had with my pastor father. And the question itself is it okay to sell at church? This conversation stemmed from I was discussing with him an experience I had a while ago, not too long after I had got out of college, where it was after service. I was still inside of the sanctuary of the church I was attending at the time in Jacksonville. And I was having a conversation with, I think maybe like my homeboy who I had brought, and the first lady of the church. And so while we were standing there talking, a young lady, I believe she was a teenager, she came up with like a school fundraiser and saying like, hey, you guys want to, support the fundraiser, buy something from the fundraiser, whatever. And it was like a book of, different little items, chocolates, candles, whatever, that type of stuff. And then you could, fill out the paper, so on and so forth. But when she approached us with it, the first lady looked at her and was like, I know you're not about to do that in here, meaning the sanctuary. And she was like, you need to take that out there, pointing to the lobby or the vestibule area. And so that just always stuck with me because at that particular time, I don't know if I didn't realize, I guess, that anybody ever had an issue with that. Because I know, like, growing up in church, I've definitely seen plenty of kids bring fundraisers to church. You know what I'm saying? I probably even brought a fundraiser to church. Because for one, I mean, especially when you go to a big enough church, like, you can get your goals met. You know what I'm saying? If you got a little fundraiser, especially if you were a kid that's well known at the church and your parents well known at the church, like, oh yeah, I helped Larnell boy out or whatever the case may be. So I had never even just considered anything until that moment, and that always stuck with me. So me and my dad got into this whole conversation about it, and then of course it led to the scripture in Matthew. I think it's in Matthew and Mark. Where it talks about how when Jesus entered into the temple when he was in Jerusalem, I believe,
the money changers.
There were money changers and people selling doves, as they describe it. And he basically flipped over the tables and the chairs and all that stuff and said that this was supposed to be a house of worship, but you've turned into a house of thieves or den of thieves or den of robbers. And so my discussion with him was about, well, is it okay to is it about something happening in the actual sanctuary, or is it about it happening at church altogether? And then even further in that discussion, when he was kind of saying, well, the sanctuary is more sacred and the lobby is kind of more okay. But I'm like, but all my life I've seen preachers, sell stuff from the pulpit, whether they were, whether it was a book or even singers book, a CD or an album or a sermon or whatever. Like they've been like, yo, I got something in the back after this sermon. Even shout out to Noel Jones, no shade to him, but even like Noel Jones, like he'll pass out a couple of tapes and DVDs and stuff to whoever's out there in the audience before he starts preaching, and then let you know that it's more of those available, in the back. And so I guess I just wanted to have a discussion about that. You know what I'm saying? Like just being able to, I guess, sell stuff at church in general, or should it be, I guess, or is it supposed to be more off limits? So that's my question.
Well,
it's better than a Starbucks, and I've seen that in a church before.
I've seen coffee shops or coffee cafes in churches, but they were free.
Well, you can sell coffee and specialized coffee and Danish or donuts or muffins or whatever, as long as it's going to the church. I think that's fine because that's just fundraising. Same thing if it's for a good cause with the kids and all that, and you're raising money for a good cause. That's just like a special offering. In my, you know how like sometimes they do a special offering for a specific thing. How is that any different? Only now you get a candy bar out of it. So,
but I don't know. Oh, go ahead, Jess.
No, you go ahead because I got the scripture.
Well, I was just gonna say I don't even know if fundraisers was okay. I know like the church I grew up in is, or in Janessa, you grew up here even until obviously your dad started his church, but like Bishop Morton, we never did no fundraisers at the church. We never had fish fries, and he purposely like said, I don't want to do that. You know what I'm saying? Like I don't want to do fish fries. I don't want to sell plates. I don't want to. And I never had the conversation with him before he passed to ask specifically why. But I do remember even just overhearing my mom and Miss Moore, different people talking about how like Bishop was kind of against that, and maybe he was just more relying on the tithe and offering principle. Yes, Kelly.
So things like events. So the marriage ministry is doing something, the youth are going somewhere. Was that covered by the church, or did you have to pay for it?
So it depends on what it was. I know, like, so if we ever did like a all-nighter with the youth, the church definitely covered it, but maybe your parents had to give you some spending money or something. But I know even with and Janessa, you can correct me if I'm wrong. I believe even when we went to like the Full Gospel Conference and stuff, I believe your parents had to pay something to that degree of whether it was the hotel, something. I don't remember exactly what was what, but I don't know if but I know the church did cover the travel because like we would travel on the bus or whatever like that. But I think it was maybe like a half and half type of thing.
It was like a reduced fare or something like that. And that was really only for if it was like travel, because hotels do cost, you know, like stuff like that does cost. But I think the goal was to always make things affordable. Because it's, you know, everybody can't pay $150 to do something. And then if you have multiple kids, you know, that can quickly add up to $300-$400. So I think the goal was to keep it as affordable as possible, keep it as free as possible. But if it was like a situation where, you know, you had to get a hotel room, but even then it was split between 4 people, and then you still had to pay a reduced fee after that, again, just to keep it low cost. So yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. No, you good. But like I said, so we never. So I guess the point I was getting at was I don't even know if fundraisers are okay, because I guess that's what I'm even getting at behind this whole question. Like, is it depending on what you're selling and what you're selling it for, or should the house of worship just only be for the house of worship, and you keep your entrepreneurial, you know, whatever affairs, you know, outside? And this is speaking from somebody who, you know, is an entrepreneur who has something to sell, and I would love to sell it at church. You know what I'm saying? But I just don't. It just made me kind of think like, were we going about this the wrong way, or was Jesus flipping tables on those particular people for a different reason or something? I don't know.
Yeah, but you ain't doing it for a good cause. You know, what you selling ain't going to some charity. It's going to Rudy Wilson.
Well, I'm saying the preachers who were selling their DVDs and stuff was going to them. Like they were.
Well, but that's going to their ministry as well. You know,
not all the time. Especially even like gospel singers who would come, like they selling they CD. Like they sell. They not. It's not just so that
right. But if they don't make money, they can't make more music. Do you get what I'm saying?
I do get what you're saying.
Everybody's got to eat.
But there's plenty of the avenues outside of church to make money and eat. You know what I'm saying? So
that's if you're a gospel singer.
Yes, it is. Are you serious?
We just talked about a concert.
Are you serious?
Yeah, well, no. I understand that, but you're talking about as if it's any different inside the sanctuary. You know, to sell CDs in the back as opposed to sell tickets to come see them somewhere else. You're still they're still raising money to continue their ministry, whether they're a singer or a pastor. I mean, if you're on that level, why should pastors even get paid to be pastors? Because they got to eat.
Yeah, but I guess, you know, having a full-time job and selling something is still 2 different things. Like, you know what I'm saying? But let me backtrack. Janessa, go ahead with your scripture. So we can.
So it was the scripture that you were saying. This one's Mark 11:15-17. And you are right. On reaching Jerusalem, Jesus entered the temple area and began driving out those who were buying and selling there. He overturned the tables of the money exchangers and the benchers of those selling doves, and would not allow anyone to carry merchandise through the court. And as he taught them, he said, it is not written, my house will be called a house of prayer for all nations. Oh, is it not written, my house will be called a house of prayer for all nations, but you have made it a den of robbers. So I did do a little quick, a deeper search, and I found some interesting things. So for one, the way the temple was set up back then, they had 2 sections, one for the Jewish people and one for the Gentiles. And because the Gentiles were not a part of the covenant, they were not allowed to worship in the same area as the Jewish peoples. So the area that was designated for the Gentiles to pray is what became the marketplace. And so Jesus was upset because it was essentially converting this place that was made for this group of people to praise and worship God into a market. And then furthermore, on top of that, they were selling things and being not only just selling things, but they were being dishonest about it. So like they were selling stuff for one price when it really should be another price. And so now not only are you taking away the Gentiles' area of worship, on top of that, in a sacred area, you now being dishonest as well in your sales. And then also it said that this basically made the temple become like a Buc-ee's, like a little pit stop for travel,
right.
versus.
And they got to do it on our side.
Right.
Yeah,
they didn't do it on the Jewish side. They got to do it on our side.
It was like a shortcut, a place you can just kind of rest, get some things on as you travel along your way. And so I think it essentially in this reference, it started off as one thing and it became something else that it wasn't meant to be. And so that's what it is for the Bible. Now, in the context of today, kind of what we're saying, if you're having a fish fry and it's going to go towards buying a van so you can go feed the homeless, I don't necessarily see anything wrong with that. And even to the extent of fundraisers, like for your school, y'all are selling popcorn so you can, I don't know, build a new amphitheater for the arts program. I don't know. It's essentially going to benefit something else. That part might be tricky. But, the fundraiser for the school might be a school that doesn't have the same views that the church does. So,
right.
That's a whole different conversation if we want to have it. But I think overall, kind of even to what y'all was saying about the guest singers or guest pastor, it can go either way as well, because they got to eat. So that's kind of coming to them. But also to Terry's point, they also may be using that money to buy studio time so they can record the next gospel album, or, it might go towards a new laptop so they can write the next Christian book, self-help book or whatever. So I think at the end of the day, as with a lot of things when it comes to Christianity, it's like a heart check. What are you doing it for?
Right. You got to stop worrying about what they're spending the money on, because that's on them. If they're doing, something nefarious with it, or they're doing some, a vil reprieve with it, that's on them, not on you. Your only concern should be, where was your mindset and what was your motive in giving it to them? That's where your responsibility ends. What they do with it.
You're doing so well, Kelly. You're doing so well.
What they're doing with it is on them.
I feel that. And I feel that even just logistically, like that makes sense. But I guess because the Bible, at least, maybe I haven't done my due diligence, but I didn't see where it's specified that these people were selling something, for something, just say evil or whatever. Like, what if they was buying something equivalent to studio time back then? You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know what they were spending it on, but
well, Jesus
right. But even to the analogy that Janessa gave, if you said, if I think even just say maybe even the heart check thing, I can see where it fits, where like you if this has become something that it's not supposed to be. Like, I don't mind you selling this stuff or whatever, like that, because it's not like you just say you were selling something wrong, but it's not supposed to be sold here, because this isn't a, we don't really have CD stores no more, but back in the day, this isn't a FYE or, or Best Buy or whatever the case may be. Like, this is the house of worship. Like, you literally come here for this, or house of prayer, that you come here for this specific thing. And if you do something outside of that, even if it's not necessarily for a sinful, if you will, intention, does that necessarily make it right? You know what I'm saying? Like, that's just like we've talked about, which is maybe slightly different, but even just, the clothes you wear, we've talked about, like, it's okay to wear if you at a brunch or whatever like that, but you may not, wear it to church. For whatever reason, there is some level of a line that's drawn when it comes down to what's okay, but what's also I guess, okay at church because we're only here for this specific reason. So if you bring, another reason, like people have a problem with it. There's even people who've had problems just say throughout churches, like when a pastor brings a comedian, to the church, like they feel like, you ain't supposed to be in here laughing and stuff, which, that's a whole nother discussion. But I'm saying like, there's just always been this line of what's supposed to happen at church versus not at church. But I guess the only line I've ever really seen with selling stuff is based off of what you're selling, you know what I'm saying? And what, I guess what the mission behind it is. But to me, I don't know, like, I guess it just never really specified if those people were in the sanctuary, and they just said the temple. I don't know if the temple had a lobby or, whatever the case may be, but they were selling it there. And Jesus was like, nah, this ain't the spot for that, for whatever reason. So it just made me think about it as a whole. Like, is it just in the sanctuary or is it at church in general? And even if it is in the sanctuary, does it depend on what you're selling in the sanctuary? Because that first lady who I first gave the analogy about, she didn't care that girl was selling something for a good cause. You know what I'm saying? She could have been selling her gospel CD, but she was like, no, you ain't doing that inside the sanctuary. You can go out there in the lobby and do that. You feel what I'm saying? So I don't know if there's a line, what the line is. Is it just based off of, what my heart intention is, or should I just keep this away from the church altogether? I don't know.
Hey y'all, sorry to interrupt, but we have a few church announcements. Follow us on Instagram at TheWorstOnesPK. New content coming soon. We also have a TikTok at TheWorstOnesPK. No content yet, but continue to check us out. If you want to, when you listen to our podcast, you can find us on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, wherever you find your podcast. Just make sure you type in The Worst Ones Podcast and you'll find us. And when you get there, make sure you like, you comment, you subscribe, and you share. Thank you to our 500,422 followers. We love you so much. Now, back to the show. I kind of all over the place. I mean, I can see where you say the sanctuary, or at least the altar, is this holy space. Mm-hmm. It serves this purpose. Mm-hmm. And so if you're going to say, hey, in this space, these are the things that are appropriate, and that is consistent across all things, then I'm okay with that the altar is this space for this purpose. Mm-hmm. If that's what it is 24/7. Mm-hmm. And if that's the case, to Terry's point, there is a way in which you say that to someone, especially mm-hmm. a young girl. Mm-hmm. So, and it isn't, it's a way in which you are, gently saying to her, hey, proud of you for doing this excellent job, blah, mm-hmm. blah, blah, but if you can do that out in the lobby, that'd be great. Or at the back of the sanctuary, mm-hmm. or whatever, that would be great. There's, mm-hmm. like I said, I think there's a way to approach it, the way to say it. Especially because, right, it's a young girl selling something for school, sports, mm-hmm. or whatever. And I do think that church should be a place where they go to get that support. Absolutely. Church is big, and we've talked about this before. Like, church is bigger than just the pastor delivering the word. Mm-hmm. That is a big part of it, but it's also family, it's also community, it's also mm-hmm. fellowship, and so a child should be able to come to the church to, promote their fundraiser for things at school. Mm-hmm. I think the church has a responsibility to support community businesses, to support their congregation businesses, to support small businesses, and Black churches support Black businesses, mm-hmm. like, I think that the church has an obligation to do that.
All churches support Black businesses. Just
all churches, okay. All churches support Black businesses.
No. Have you ever heard of the Westboro Baptist Church? No, they don't.
And and for me, I think it's okay to promote that in church, to promote that from the pulpit, to promote, what I'm saying? Like, I think that those things are okay when it isn't something that, is intentionally bad, So of course we're not going to promote, Rudy's hitman services, from the pulpit.
Hitman services. What is that?
when they hire you to kill people.
Oh,
Yeah. Okay.
She went John
oh,
Wick.
you mean
right
an
out of the
actual
gate.
hitman? Oh, gotcha.
I've been watching a lot of crime shows on my time off. Sorry. but so of course you wouldn't promote those things. But hey, right. Rudy has an ice cream stand, or Janessa has a food truck, or Miss Libby has porta potties, or or whatever. Like, I think that there is an obligation from the church, a responsibility from the church to support its community, to support its congregation. So that's one point. Mm-hmm. Another point, right. I've seen multiple times when pastors, when singers have come and from the, after they've ministered, they have promoted their CDs, their tapes, their album, whatever, my father included. And to Terry's point, yes, it may appear to go into their pockets, but it supports the ministry. And so to me, that's kind of the biggest thing is that, when Tasha Cobbs comes and, sings at your church and she brings her albums, and I know she's past it at this point, but she brings, but that was the first name I could think of. And she brings her, and first of all, we don't even buy CDs no more like we used to, so it's really kind of like because I don't even know what they're selling in the back of the church. I guess a book. Like, I guess it's selling a book because you're not selling CDs no more. Right. But they wrote a book and they sold it in the back and they announced it from the pulpit. I think that's okay. Like, I personally don't see a problem with it. As a church, we have invited this pastor, this minister, this artist, this whoever to come and minister to us. Why can't we minister back to them by giving to their ministry?
Like, yay! I can sell my book in the church now.
To me, if we have invited you, right now, from the pulpit, if we've invited you to come and speak, to come and minister to the people, and then we don't allow people to then, there to me, ministry is more than speaking on the pulpit. It is in the book, it is in the music, it is in those things. And so I can't support you in that way because there's a cost to it, but I can let you come. And even then, because I probably had to pay Terry to come and talk about the book. So we pay the pastors, it's fine.
I feel like this woman with the kid, I feel like she's the same type of woman that will go out to maybe like outside of the parking lot, and there's maybe a guy begging out there, and then she runs him off and be like, "You can't beg around here."
No. She wasn't that way at all. And the girl, even the girl's response, like this was something that was already established at their church. You feel what I'm saying? So like even the way she reacted, like she was, and maybe I made her sound harsher than she was, but like they said it where she knew the girl, you know what I'm saying? So she was like Natasha, now you know better. You know you ain't supposed to be in here. You know what I'm saying? Like go out there with it. So she kind of laughed or whatever, and then she went out. She was like, okay, I'll just see y'all out there in the lobby. And then so and when we went to the lobby, she just approached us then. You know what I'm saying? So it wasn't about her selling something at all. It just was like, we don't do this in the sanctuary. Like this is the sacred, place or whatever like that. But I guess my confusion with that was, I'm like, I've seen people sell stuff in the sanctuary. You know what I'm saying?
Well, like, just to qualify what I'm saying.
Her sanctuary or these?
No, just in a sanctuary in general.
Well, just to qualify what I'm saying, I have seen a woman do that. Like,
for sure.
Run off a homeless guy out of the church parking lot. And I'm like, I think you're missing the point on why you're supposed to be here. Right.
I'm sure that does happen, but I just don't want to slander this woman's, and we can say her name, but just her character or whatever, because she's not that type at all. Like, and she wasn't even fussing when she said it to the girl. Like, this was almost like, I've had this conversation with you before. Like, come on now, you ain't supposed to be doing this in here. You know what I'm saying? Type of thing. Like, just
take
go
outside, take it
right. I think that's a happy medium. Is like, if you want, you can go right outside the doors, and when everybody comes out, you can stop and ask them right there. I'll even get you a little card table so you can set up like that, like the Girl Scouts outside the grocery stores,
Right.
Perfect. I think that's a
love
nice
you guys
happy
after
medium
church.
for everybody.
Which that's why I'm saying logistically, I get it. Like in my mind, I've never seen somebody promote something from the pulpit and think like, oh, they were wrong. I never even really questioned it. You know what I'm saying? I never even thought anything about even fundraisers or anything until I seen this moment happen. And so then when I'm now just comparing it to the story in the Bible, maybe we don't have the full story of how it all played out because of how it's written, but there's just no specificity when it came down to Jesus saying like, hey, y'all supposed to be in the lobby or in the vestibule or y'all selling this for the wrong reason. This for your own pockets. It ain't for the, you know what I'm saying? Like none of that was specified. It's just, yo, this supposed to be a house of prayer. You turned it into, a den of thieves. So it just make me think, is it the whole house or is it just, go ahead, that one room? Go ahead, Janessa.
I don't know what the real answer is to that question. I think one of the big problems that is made clear is that it made it into a den of robbers. So being dishonest with what you're selling. Mm-hmm. And I think that just in general, we're not supposed to be dishonest. We're not supposed to lie in general. So to do it on church grounds is still wrong. So I think that's one point, one of the things that is important. And I think the other thing that's important is in this situation, they turned the place of worship into the market so that the people who wanted to worship could not. And right. So I don't think, at church, if somebody's selling their CD or their book or whatever, even if it's a fundraiser, worship still takes place. Like the fundraiser doesn't take over. Mm-hmm. It's not like the sanctuary and we got the Girl Scouts here and the Boy Scouts here and another group here, and then people trying to come to church and they don't have a seat because they trying to move around the tables because people selling stuff. Like, I think that's something that's important too, is that worship could not go forth because the market took over. Mm-hmm. And so that defeats the whole purpose. Now you placing the market over God, and we're not supposed to do that either. There shouldn't be anything above God. Now I will say one thing that I can see as well. Most churches, you cannot eat and drink in church. Mm-hmm. I know our church got a little sign. Now water, that's a little different.
Except for communion.
I would say baby, if you have a baby and they have formula, that's different. Communion, that's different. But you coming up in here with your McDonald's, your number one, with your sweet tea, like that's not going to happen.
Right.
Whatever gets you in the door, I'm fine with.
Something I've noticed, like we, I think it's every first Monday, we pack lunches, sandwiches, sometimes, hot food, and we deliver them to the homeless. But we don't pack up the food in the sanctuary. We pack up the food in the fellowship hall or in the kitchen area. And it's not that we couldn't pack it up in the sanctuary, but I guess the way we look at the sanctuary as a sacred place, that's not a place we just come and eat food and drink like that. We just keep it separate. Now, that doesn't mean you can't provide that service as a church, because we're supposed to help the homeless. We're supposed to give back. We're supposed to do it. But everything is not done in the sanctuary. And I understand why. So I can kind of see, I can see multiple perspectives of it. I don't necessarily think there's anything wrong with selling something from the sanctuary, especially if it's ministry based. But I think as long as that's not the priority, that's not the focus, that's not why we're here. We're here to praise God first and foremost, and then also help with our community.
But even that can be tricky. And I know, just real quick, Terry, even that can be tricky. And I know you have to just gauge it by the heart. So I know that's the ultimate answer. But I think the tricky part about that is, like, to somebody just say like Kellie's father, who we know is genuine, so on and so forth. If he's selling a book or his sermon or whatever, we can trust that it's not for, or even I even put it like his sermon isn't to sell the stuff. Right. You feel what I'm saying? The sermon is the sermon. And then if you want to be able to, just say get more, words that are inspired from God, from him, and so on and so forth, then these are more available things that you can purchase, you can listen to later. Maybe this is a sermon that can help you get through whatever trial that you went through, so on and so forth. But there is strategy that happens in some churches where I'm gonna sing my behind off, or I'm gonna preach my behind off so I can get this merch off. And merch may not be a t-shirt or whatever, it may be CDs, DVDs, or whatever the case may be. And so I think that's why people kind of just put a complete halt on it or whatever, because it can be tricky. Like, you have to really use discernment to know, like, is this person actually, you know what I'm saying, like, doing something right, or are they even just using their spiritual gift to get this bread? You feel what I'm saying? Like, and I mean, that can be tricky as well. But go ahead, Terry.
Actually, at my father's church, all growing up, every sermon was recorded and every sermon was available for purchase after, even to the point where immediately after the service was over, it was one of the deacons' jobs to go in there with they had a multi-tape recorder thing and just run off a bunch of copies, because people would want to, if it touched them and they wanted to take that sermon home with them, it was a reasonable, like, I think they only sold it for like $5 a piece.
Yeah, $5.
Yeah, exactly. I don't think there's any, and that went directly to the church. So obviously there's nothing wrong with that. I wouldn't think anybody would say that. But also, I kind of wanted to tackle this. There's a whole, almost like, I feel like a mysticism around the sanctuary. You know, like, oh, you can't eat in here, you can't drink in here, you can't do this in here, you can't do that in here. It's almost, and it's only because we designated it that way. And I had this conversation with somebody once, and it wasn't my dad and it wasn't a pastor, but they said, well, that's where God comes to be with you. And I said, no, where two or more are gathered. Like you said, don't bring your McDonald's in here. Well, what if I brought my people to the McDonald's for a Bible study? Is that now the sanctuary? Is that bad? I don't think so. I think we give too much credit to the four walls and a roof. And I think that actually I think that draws a little bit of the actual praise away from God, because now you're putting it on the room. You know?
I feel that, but I do think that it's because, like, my dad and some men, when we were living in Atlanta, going to New Beginning in Atlanta, we were, I mean, they used to have like a breakfast every Saturday at Ryan's or Shoney's, whatever was, you know, popping back then. But it was the men's ministry, and they would have full blown conversations, you know, about God and stuff like that, while having coffee, eggs, whatever. But they went there for that. So I think the mindset behind it is, it's less of a distraction because we're in a restaurant, but then having a conversation about God, as opposed to when you're in the sanctuary. For one, on just a logistic level, like McDonald's and stuff like that, you know, you can make your sanctuary filthy. You know what I'm saying? People spilling stuff and, you know, not whatever. Like that could just be a hassle in itself. But it is a distraction if, like, I'm trying to be into praise and worship and I smell your fries. You know what I'm saying? Like, I can't focus. Let me hit them fries. You know what I'm saying? Like, so I don't think that it's necessary. Like, you do kind of just say set boundaries once again, like we talked about in our last episode, not necessarily to stop people from eating McDonald's, but, you know, eat your McDonald's in the eating area. You know what I'm saying? Like,
that's an argument I can get behind. Is it's a distraction to other people. It's a distraction away from the sermon. I can totally get behind that. What I can't get behind is like, no. This is the special room. This is where God lives. And I'm like, no, God's everywhere. You know?
Well, for sure.
But I also think it's to me, it's like any places. There's rules of everyone's house. So when you go to some people's houses, you take off your shoes at the front door. You know,
hate those people.
Huh?
I hate those people.
But you know, that's in my house. There's no smoking. You know, there's rules to everyone's house out of respect of whose home it is, you know. And so in the sanctuary, God included, but whatever the pastor has deemed these are the rules of my house for whatever reason, to me, those are the rules of the house. For,
Mhm.
like I said, whether it's a distraction, whether they feel like it's disrespectful, whether it's just etiquette, for whatever it is, there's rules to people's houses.
I agree, but they can go too far with that. That's all I'm saying.
And I agree.
And I can get behind the argument that it's like, look, this is our place and we made the rules and that's fine. I totally get that. But you've never been kicked out of, children's church for wearing a hat. So
we know.
Exactly.
We know.
So I'm saying they can go too far to where, make it the way you want to. And if you want it to remain nice, like Rudy said, and not make a mess, that's fine. But don't lose the sheep because you're trying to take care of the meadow. You know what I mean?
And there's a way in which to shepherd the sheep. There's a way to redirect. There's a way to correct. There's a way to move people in a way that isn't off-putting, that isn't disrespectful, that doesn't cause them to be lost. I do agree with that. Because there's some things, like you said, you don't like the people who say take off the shoes before you come.
Don't
in the
invite
house.
me to dinner. I ain't coming.
But right. But if it was your best friend or whatever, all right, man, it's Johnny's house. They're gonna give me some socks. His wife's gonna make me do it, so I'm just gonna go.
I got socks.
They got some socks at the door. I had a friend who, not only could you not wear shoes in there, they provided you with some clean socks.
Clean socks, yeah.
For you to walk around the house.
Yeah.
We ain't even gonna let you go barefooted or with your old dirty socks. We gonna give you some socks. And that was just the rule of the house. It's not where I live. It's not where I'm going to be forever. I'm going to be here for a couple of hours to enjoy the fellowship and the entertainment with my friend. And then I'm gonna go to my space where I make it comfortable. So in the Lord's house, in whatever the pastor, the overseer has decided are the rules of his house, I'm going to respect that, agree or disagree. I agree. Sometimes it goes too far, and then I can make a choice of not going, or not coming back. But I get it on one end,
right? And I think I think. Oh, go ahead, Janessa.
I was just gonna say real quick, just to piggyback off of you in terms of like the food. Like I told y'all, my church used to give free dinners on Wednesday. That would be in the fellowship hall 2 hours before. And then we would transition to the sanctuary. And even now, most recently, and I think it's actually really cute. My church has been doing after church, like for Father's Day, they did donuts for dad right after church. Outside as you're leaving, grab a Krispy Kreme donut. This past week, they had popsicles. So it's not necessarily we want to starve you, but kind of what y'all are saying, these are the rules within the sanctuary. This is not something that we do, but we will definitely feed you because that's what the Bible says, to shelter, feed, protect, help. So it's just, there's a time and place for everything. And like Kellie said, if you agree with it, great, keep coming back. And if you don't, no one's telling you got to go to this specific church where they have these rules that you may not agree with.
I noticed these rules never seem to apply to the old ladies with the hard candy in their purse. Oh, it's just hard candy. Yeah, and it's just a coffee, so leave me alone.
And I know churches now, and I think I talked about this before. One of the churches I used to go to out in Atlanta, you could purchase coffee, pastries, little sandwiches or whatever, and eat it in the sanctuary.
I think you were too, and I was like, wait a second.
Right.
I loved it. I
remember one time they had chicken and waffles. And again, it was distracting.
Oh,
that's my
favorite.
And waffles.
Like a sandwich or like you got
a plate. It was a waffle and
on a plate.
Oh my God.
Now I won't say most people didn't eat it, but you saw a few people in there with the plate on their lap in church.
Oh my God.
Oh, talk about a distraction.
What's that multicultural church? Because if the Holy Spirit hits me, and that plate go up because my right, quick and real quick.
It's hard to clean up syrup.
You're not even present, and not that the Holy Spirit can't hit you at any time.
Right.
But if you're sitting there eating some chicken and waffles, you're really not even present enough in the service.
Then you're gonna get the itis, like it's gonna be the whole thing.
You're not even present enough. And then another church that I go to, they give away coffee for free that you can take in, to the service as well. And so there's people that again, different rules in different houses. and for me, the chicken and waffles distracted me for a moment. I thought it was strange. And I went on back to my thing and kept it moving. Now you did have to pay for the chicken and waffles, but and I went back and I was like, fine. They weren't sitting directly next to me. They were sitting a few rows ahead of me. Right. The coffee doesn't bother me, and so it doesn't stop me from going. But I can see someone else says, that's ridiculous.
The last church that I went to, the last place that my father preached, down in South Florida, up in Palm Beach County, they would give you breakfast, donuts, muffins, whatever, coffee. And again, you want to take it in the sanctuary, go right ahead. Go. They're just happy you're there. You know what I mean?
The issue for at least Baptist churches, I can't speak for all of them, but the ones that I know of, people will take off running in a second. Flips the coffee. Yeah. And we have carpet, and it's purple carpet. Like, it's not going to be a good thing. And when I say people run laps, Terry, I mean laps.
Oh, like, no, who are you talking
nobody's
to?
Looking, let me step.
I grew up in a Pentecostal church. We are the runners. We're the runners and the dancers and the spinners and but on the other hand, like, maybe it's on you. First of all, I don't expect anybody to be eating all throughout the service. I mean, how much food did you bring? Like I said, they give you a Danish or a muffin and a cup of coffee. That's fine. That's going to be done before the music's over. You know what I mean? But at the same time, I also agree that like a plate of chicken and waffles might be taking it too far. That's because that is something that is going to be a huge distraction, and you're going to have to deal with all throughout the service. And like I said, syrup is hard to get up off the floor. So. I get that there's a limit, but to be so stringent on everything, I don't agree with that either.
But to the point that you was making, Terry, a little bit earlier about I guess the going too far about the sanctuary. I don't know if I'm on the side of just say that the going too far, but that kind of questioning did make me kind of, I guess, even have this question about whether the difference between the sanctuary or selling something in the lobby or whatever. Because even growing up, like I was always under the impression, like when you at church, regardless where you're at, like you're on, church grounds, you know what I'm saying? So even just say like, for people who cuss or whatever, like, you wasn't trying to cuss in the parking lot or the sanctuary. You know what I'm saying? Because you just was on church ground. But if you sold something in the parking lot and not in the sanctuary, oh, Terry phone must have died. But if you sold something in the parking lot, but not in the sanctuary, then it's kind of okay. So, I mean, it seems like it's a really fine line. And once again, maybe I need to dig deeper to see like how these temples were set up back then, to see like why it was such a big deal. Like, because once again, it would be one thing if God was, or Jesus was like, yo, y'all know y'all supposed to be doing that in the lobby or in the parking lot or in the whatever area, but it just was like, no, don't do that here. And so even if you're in the educational building where you have Sunday school or wherever, like, to me, I could see how just say selling something can become, even if it's not stopping service, it can become a marketplace to some degree. Like if we set up, we was like, yo, at the church, well, everybody who got a little business, you can go out there and set up your little booth, you know what I'm saying, and do your thing or whatever. And once again, I'm not saying that's wrong, but I can see how even that could be a thing, is what I'm getting at. Because even feeding people and saying where you have to eat, like I'm giving you free food from the church and saying, but you have to eat it here, that's one thing. But selling something is selling something, and even if it's for whether you're selling drugs or you selling Bibles, is it? I guess I just was always curious, and I'm not saying y'all have the answer, but I guess my question was, is it the church grounds the same way I looked at everything else, whether I'm in the parking lot or a sanctuary, or is it the actual sanctuary? Is it depending on what's going on? Is it depending on what I'm selling and what I'm using the money for? Like, is it determined on all those things, or is it just a complete like, nah, don't do that here? Like, if you got CDs, put them in the store, or if you got, you know, food, put it in a restaurant or something like that, and figure it out from there. Or can you, to Kellie's point, you know, or is the church obligated to support these members who have these businesses and stuff, which I feel like is okay. I'm not arguing that point, but I just based off of this Bible, I mean, this scripture in the Bible, I guess it's just not enough context on the surface level for me to see, like, was Jesus mad at them because they were doing something? Because he even said, like, he was flipping out on the sellers and the buyers. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't even just people who were selling. It was the people who was also purchasing. You know what I'm saying? So I'm just trying to figure out, like, what was his beef? You know what I'm saying? Like, what was the whole thing?
But it sounded like, and Janessa, correct me if I'm wrong, that they were overcharging people.
They were being dishonest with their sales.
Right. Yeah, they were being dishonest.
But does it actually say that though?
Yeah. Well, a den of thieves. And I also looked in the commentary. So there might be more to it. And then of course, you know, like the translation between English and Hebrew and
right
stuff like that. So when I was looking at the commentary, that's what it said. Dang, I clicked out of it.
Because I had even thought about that. Like, even when he's saying den of thieves or den of robbers, like, are you metaphorically saying something, Jesus? Like, yo, since y'all supposed to be here worshiping, but you just worry about your own pockets, and so that's robbery. Just like, you know, can a man rob God, you know, through his tithes and offerings? Like, is it a metaphorical thing, or are you actually saying, like, yo, not only y'all selling in the church, but y'all playing people? You know what I'm saying? And I guess that's where my digging deeper has to happen, because
it says in the commentary I'm reading right now, it says exchanging currency, and we're ripping off those trading and purchasing, thus the den of robbers statement by Jesus. So I guess if you're ripping off traders, that's not what you're supposed to be doing.
Right. I wonder, was there ever another instance where people actually sold things in the Bible and it was okay and it wasn't? I wonder. I'm saying, not that you have the answer, but I'm gonna actually look into that to see.
I'm not sure. I was just thinking about in today's terms. Now, you know, of course, I understand back in the day they didn't have the internet, but would it be appropriate for churches, you know, on their church website to have community marketplace? And you can promote all the businesses, the fundraisers, whatever, and just direct your if you would like to support, you know, members within the community with their businesses fundraisers, go check them out on the church website, and then that would, you know, take off to a certain extent, if, you know, depending on how technical you want to get, building on the church grounds per se. But that's just because, you know, this is the day and age we live in with technology and internet. So that might be something churches may consider as well.
I like that, because I feel like even if it's something like, again, a resource, we have a member in the church that does insurance. We have a member in the church that has a private school. We have a member in the church that does tutoring or mentoring services. We have, you know, like those things. It helps you with housing. We got to, you know, like all of those things that I feel like you may come to the church for. And yes, these may be things, the tutoring, the insurance, all of that. There's a cost that comes along with that. But I feel like the church can be a place to give resources to the members, to other people. And I know as a church, we often have benevolence, you know, and I don't even know if we've ever had that conversation before. I think we have briefly, you know, about what is the church's obligation in giving back, and how much and how often and for what purposes, that, you know, or whatever. You know, but we have those obligations to do those things. And I was also going to say, even with the fundraising, I don't think Berean has ever really done fundraising either, you know, to my knowledge. But I also get it when it's to serve a purpose. And that's why it asks about, you know, cost for trips, cost for ministry activities, because, right, all of those things cost. Like when we went on lockouts, you know, we went to, I can't even remember those places. We went to go play laser tag,
American Adventure, different little play. Right.
We did go karts, we did the arcades, we did bowling, we did 4 or 5, 6.
I went with y'all one time. We didn't get back to about 5 o'clock in the morning.
Exactly.
Right.
They fed us because you get there at like 7 and then you don't leave again until 7 a.m. And so, teenagers, we hungry at 7. When we get there, we want a little midnight pizza, and then you serve me breakfast before I leave. Like all of that cost, and I do think that it's important for the church to provide the spaces for youth, young adults, married, singles, to have these opportunities. But I also don't think that the church can absorb all of those costs. And so if they want to supplement with a fundraiser, I think that that's okay too. So that people don't have to come out of their pocket. I know that there's something when I was at church for Father's Day that they're doing. I can't remember what it was, something for the youth or whatever. And it was like $30. And, and my dad was asking other people, hey, if you don't have kids and you want to donate $30 to do a scholarship for someone,
right.
that you can do that. And I think that's fine. But I also feel like if they wanted to do a fish fry, do a fish fry. They don't, if it's going to the fish fry money is going to the youth, going to, because we used to go to conferences locally, but we also used to go to Maryland and all sorts of stuff in conferences too, New Orleans, all of that to conferences too, which costs. And like Janessa said earlier, when parents have 2, 3, 4 kids, and the cost for the hotel, the cost for the transportation, cost for the food, cost for the conference, all of that adds up, that it is tough and difficult to ask families to produce that. But we don't want children to not be able to, or adults not to be able to participate either. So if churches find supplemental ways to get money through fundraisers, I don't have no issue with that either. I just want to put that out there.
Yeah. And I was going to just say quickly, I know, I didn't know about this growing up, but I know about it now, that a lot of churches also partner with other like nonprofits or other just organizations. And that's how a lot of stuff is sometimes supplemented. Even if it's not financially, like, oh, y'all having a cookout, well, my organization will donate the pizza. We'll donate the drinks.
Right.
Oh, y'all having a back to school bash, my organization will donate some book bags.
Right.
So it's not always on the church or the church members. So, there are definitely various ways to kind of take care of the needs of the church all around.
Yeah. No, I agree. Like I said, I think for me, I'm on the same page with y'all. like, to me, I don't necessarily see anything wrong, especially if you're doing it for the right reasons. But I do got a few more questions for the Lord. I just need to know what's popping. You know what I'm saying? Like, what's
have a little talk with Jesus.
You know what I'm saying?
Tell him all about
your trouble. He will stand by your side. Okay. Anyway, all right. Janessa, do you have something for us? Or you want to just get out of here?
I told you I had nothing for y'all this week.
All right.
Be safe. Have a little have a talk with Jesus. Tell him all about your troubles.
I'm telling you. Well, we appreciate you guys for listening to us. Shout out Terry Wayne. He's out of here, so he ain't gonna better give y'all his Instagram. But we'll give it for him because his phone died. But Kellie Lee, tell him where we cannot find you.
At Princess Kells 51. Still private.
Still private. What does the 51 mean? I think I asked you that before.
My line number.
Jesus, how many of y'all was it?
62.
Okay, gotcha.
A bunch. You can find me at JRihanna_. We have fun over there.
And at Terry Wayne Comedy, you can follow him on his comedic journey. And as well as he has a book on Amazon.com entitled Unclaimed Ashes. Please support my boy. We're not selling it at church. We're selling it here. So we should be all right. All righty. Well, once again, thank you guys for listening as always, watching as always. Please like, comment, subscribe, especially on the audio sites, the Apple, the Spotify's. It really helps our podcast when you leave comments, you leave 5-star reviews. So please do that on the audio specifically. Because I'm learning more and more through this podcast game. The audio is where the money's at. It ain't the video. The video helps, but the companies are paying for the audio. So help us out on that side. We really appreciate you. And until next time, we are the worst ones. We out.
Top of the world.